Welcome to Courage Plug. Can't help but notice us, and we ain't never scared. Nothing but hope for us. We got that holy touch. You should come roll with us. Yo, we be posted up, and we lift each other up. Just welcome to Courage Plug. Can't help but notice us, and we ain't never scared. It's nothing but hope for us. We got that holy touch. You should come roll with us. Yo, we be posted up, and we lift each other up. Yeah, we ain't never scared. We ain't never scared.
What's up? It's your girl Brittany, and we are back for another episode of the Courage Plug. Yes, get plugged into all things courage. I'm really excited about today's episode, guys, because my guest is somebody that's very near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to introduce her the only way I know how. So basically, if you guys have read any of my books, she is the person that edited both my books. And I call her my mom editor because she's not just a book editor. She's also like a mom to me. And my life is better because of her. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest for today, Danita Lynne.
Well, hello there, sweetheart.
Hi. I'm very excited, guys. The title of this podcast is called The Courage to Forgive. The Courage to Forgive. And so Danita Lynne, which is also my mom, I don't know what I'm going to call you today, but we just going to go with it. But she has written a book called The Other Side of Unforgiveness. And I just wanted to have her on here to talk about that a little bit. But before we get into that, I kind of want her to introduce herself and tell you guys what she does.
Loaded question. What do I do? All right. So as Brittany already told you, I'm Danita Lynne. I am a mom. I like to say that first because everything else revolves around that. Not to the point where I don't have a life of my own, but once you are responsible for another little person, you just have to be considerate of that. And trust me, a lot of forgiveness comes with that role specifically. I'm also a caregiver to my mother. And because recently my dad actually passed away late last year, October of 2021. So I am now my mom's full-time caregiver. She's 87. I'm blessed to still have her with me, and she's active and healthy. And on the professional side, I am a sign language interpreter / trainer. I do more of the training things than interpreting these days because I like empowering people with information to help them make lives better for people who are deaf or hard of hearing in workplaces where they share space with people who hear or just don't know sign language. And what else do I do? All right. And I'm an author. As Brittany said, I wrote the book, The Other Side of Unforgiveness. And I have another one brewing that I won't get into, but it's still in the forgiveness vein. So those are the main things that I do to sustain my life, in addition to being an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, always trying to think of something else. That's
Man, yes. I love it. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because if I could be completely transparent, like I kind of struggle with forgiveness, and it's more so personal than anything. I made a post a couple of weeks ago, and it was basically just saying, you know, I was kind of mad at myself that I waited so long to find out who I was and know who I was and just, you know, walk in that authority. But when I start to think about the things I allowed to happen and, you know, the relationships I've been in that went sour or the bad decisions that I made, you know, sometimes it's kind of hard to forgive myself. And so what are some of the things that you can do, or what's some of the things that you've kind of overcome when it pertains to forgiving yourself?
Well, I had to forgive myself for choosing to be in the marriage that led to the book that I shared with you all. That relationship was very short-lived. We did not make it to our first anniversary. We were married for about 10 months before everything just tanked. And I remember being so upset. It was Christmas time, and I was on the phone with my friend crying about how I couldn't believe it was like this. It was supposed to be better than this. It wasn't supposed to be this. And I was just beating myself up about the situation. And she let me say what I had to say for a few seconds and then said, okay, so are you going to be here next year? And immediately I was kind of indignant, like, dang, she didn't even give me a minute to just lament. She went straight in for the, gut punch, like, what you going to do about it? And I realized that being upset with myself about where I wasn't helping anything. It was what I have come to figure out, and I explain in the book, that it allowed the enemy to have even more of my time than was already stolen from me. So it was bad enough that I had lost, if you will, 10 months of my life in this relationship that was clearly not going anywhere. But then to keep being upset about it and mad at myself about it and wallowing in self-pity about where I was in that situation was giving him even more time than he had already stolen. And who does that? Who gets robbed and then calls a thief back and say, hey, you forgot something. Can you take this too? That was what that was. That was the equivalent to me of calling the thief back to my place and saying, you forgot to take some more. Here, I packed this up for you. So it just didn't make sense. And it was kind of like she smacked me back into reality. And from that point forward, I said, okay, this is it. No more of this. I have to move on. And that decision is what I use. That mindset is what I use for everything else. Anytime I find myself in a space where I'm beating myself up about something.
Right. And so when you hear, I don't know if you ever heard the saying, like, unforgiveness is like drinking poison, waiting on the next person to die. Like, do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Completely. I posted something probably a couple of months ago now, and I said, why are you wasting time making decisions on what somebody else is thinking about you when they ain't thinking about you?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're holding unforgiveness, thinking, shoot, that person don't deserve my forgiveness, like it's a gift that's actually yours to give somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's the gift we have from God. Who are we to hold it back from anybody? So if we're going to say, I'm going to hold on to this unforgiveness and think it's hurting that person, when ultimately you're stopping your own success, your own grace, your own ability to just move freely.
Right.
Because once I forgave, it was just like, shake it off. I just felt so free. And I promise you, every single time I tell the story, I feel even more free. And for anyone who's been through something and healed from it, they can probably tell you the same thing. They're going to feel more free every single time they tell that story, because it's just like, you can't hold anything over me because I'm going to tell it all myself.
Right.
Forget you.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's always like another level of healing in telling our story and being transparent about it, because, a lot of things that when you start talking about forgiveness or unforgiveness, a lot of people don't have the courage to say, I really struggled with unforgiveness. Like, I really had to sit down with myself and forgive myself first and then forgive other people. We struggle because, in my age group or whatever, my generation, like we live like, forgive, but don't forget, like we still like, I ain't forget what you did, but I feel like there's like a maturity piece to that says, I forgive you. And, I haven't forgotten, but it's more so like you're more mature in a statement. Like you're not saying, I
Yeah.
ain't forget. Like I ain't forget. I haven't forgotten. Like I know where to put you now in my space, but I'm not actually holding you with me because I haven't forgotten. So I just feel like
Right.
if you forgive a person, it's not really human to forget the experience, but it would be human
Definitely
to
not.
not carry the person with you on the strength of forgive and don't forget. Because when I was going to Victory, Apostle Tony said this, and I'll never forget it. He said, forgiveness is like putting a person back in the place they were before they hurt you. Forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
is like putting the person
Yep.
back in the same place
Back
they were
in the
before they hurt
place.
you. And so it's not
Yeah.
saying you're giving them the same access. It's not saying you're giving them the same place in your heart. It's just saying, I'm going to put this person back. Like before we even ever met, I'm going to put you back in
Mm-hmm.
that thing and just move on and, go on with life. But, I'm still
Yeah.
gonna, not hold you to that same weight. Like, and so like recently, I went through something and it was public. And so I was just like, I didn't know how to respond to it. And I was just gonna go, make subliminal posts,
Hmm.
go live and, talk about the person. But I'm just like, you know what? It's not even worth it. Like, I
Exactly.
can't say I 100% forgave the person yet, but I'm working towards it.
That's
And
real.
I know I'm bigger than what I was, because my first instinct was to, go live and like put the person out. But first of all, that's not even the audience that I want. Number one, I want
Right.
people to not, go off of their emotions and stuff. That's not the type of brand that I have. And so, you know, number one, being courageous is like literally forgiving people. I feel like that's a form of being courageous, because it's not
Most
the
definitely.
first instinct. It's not my first instinct isn't to, oh, she didn't mean it, let me forgive her. Or, oh, God forgave
Right.
me, let me forgive her. Like, no, that's not how that works. Like, I'm gonna be mad and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
cry, you know, I'm gonna be upset. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like forgiveness is literally what kind of opens the door for us to really heal and move forward.
In every way. A lot of people think it's emotional. It's not just emotional. Forgiveness is actually scientifically releases endorphins or hormones in your body that lead to healing in your body, your physical body. There are people who are sick because they're holding on to unforgiveness. Why do you think in the Bible, that Jesus always asked them, when somebody wanted to be healed, do you want to be made whole? And they would all, he was always addressing their spiritual aspect first. Like, what do you want? And I can't remember who it was. Somebody, oh, I know. I had a girlfriend who she wrote a book as well. And she was talking about how she was dealing with cancer and how she wrote in her book, she did not receive her complete healing from cancer. And so she went back to her father and dealt with what issues they had so that she could move on and be completely healed. Like, it literally led to her physical health transformation as well. And that's not a game. And yes, that does take courage. Like you said, you can't just be, this forgiveness stuff is not for wimps at all. Because if you look at it the way the world looks at it, you're going to think it makes you look weak. When in actuality, it makes you look stronger, because you have to change, but you have to change your perspective. You have to say, if I have the power to hold forgiveness, then giving it is just as powerful. There's no way one direction, it can be one direct, what's the word? It can't only work one way. That's what I'm trying to say. It can't be something where you're powerful if you hold it, but if you give it, you're less powerful. That makes no sense. The fact is, it's in your hands. It's in your power. So the power doesn't change. Matter of fact, it loses power when you're holding it. Because when you're holding it, you're holding that person. Like you said, I forgave you, but I ain't forget. But that's the forget. I want to clap back. I'm resentful type of thing. But you can forget and not hold it against the person. Because if you're holding it against the person, you're like, you use the word carrying someone. If you're not carrying it, if you're carrying, just imagine yourself physically carrying the person on your back that you haven't forgiven. Right. How fast you gonna go anywhere? Mm-hmm. So if you're holding that, you're literally carrying this person. It's weighing you down. And you can't go and you can't go do your own thing and think that person gonna go do their own thing. That person might not be thinking about you. They might be doing their own thing. But you're not going to be able to go and do your own thing if you're carrying extra weight. And unforgiveness is extra weight.
Yes, unforgiveness is extra weight. Ooh, that's good. I'm gonna make sure I use that quote. But yes, so in your book, you talked about reasons why people can't forgive. And one of the reasons that stuck with me the most is the person does not deserve to be forgiven. And it stuck with me because, you know, for me, when I go through different things and people do stuff to me, I replay it in my head. Like I try to think of ways that I could have said things better, done things better, you know, and I don't know if you guys remember the movie Why Did I Get Married? And, you know, they both wanted to get a divorce or whatever. And she told, you know, she told them to make a list of all the things that they've done wrong, all the things that they've done good. You know, if they've done more good than bad, then, you know, stay and fix it. And so that's always in the back of my mind when people do stuff to me, like, is this relationship worth salvaging? Or should I just let it go? And so for me, you know, I'm not saying like I'm like the perfect person, but 9 times out of 10, like I just can't, sometimes I can't find it in my mind and what I wrote down that nothing I could have done differently. Sometimes, yes, I'm not saying, you know, I'm just never do anything wrong, but I just feel like 9 times out of 10 people that hurt me, I'd be like, they don't get forgiveness. They don't deserve forgiveness. And I'm pretty sure, you know, I'm the tyrant or, you know, monster in other people's stories about me. But for me personally, I just don't feel like people deserve forgiveness. But because of the relationship that I have with God and, you know, how I don't always do and say everything right, and he forgives me every time on time, I just don't feel like I have it. I just don't feel like I should, you know, hold that people to that same, you know, caliber. But one of the reasons why it takes me so long to forgive is because I really don't feel like people deserve forgiveness. Like people should be able to apologize and, you know, confront the situation. And a lot of things, a lot of reasons why, like, I don't move on so quickly from relationships or friendships and stuff, because I be really wanting closure. Like, why did you do what you did? You know? But I know, you know, I'm not always going to get closure, but I feel like that's one of the reasons why it takes me so long to forgive.
Well, let me say, first of all, about the closure piece. You can get closure because you can close it yourself. You don't have to have the other person, because there are people who need to forgive people who are dead. There are people who need to forgive people who they will never see again. They're, you know, they've lost touch and they're not going to find them. They're not going to be able to have that conversation. But you mean to tell me because that's not possible, you're going to stay bound? Oh no, you got to figure it out. Right. Figure it out. So deserving forgiveness or not deserving it is not mine to decide. Right. I know for sure that I've done something to at least one person that I really hurt and really didn't mean to. At least once. And when I think about that, and how much I wanted forgiveness, even though I know I jacked that up. I still wanted forgiveness. So I try to put people in that same situation. They could have the same heart. They could, they could genuinely want to be forgiven, or they might not even think they've done anything wrong. Because that's the thing. Maybe you're thinking they don't deserve forgiveness because that person isn't acting like they've done anything wrong. And if that's the case, that's not your problem. Like, your response is your responsibility. You can't respond for them. You got to take care of you. And if it means forgiving someone who's not sorry, because every day you want to be free and live your life completely, full out, no brakes, all gas, you got to figure it out. Because you're worth it. Forget what they're worth. You're worth it. So somebody else deserving it isn't even about you. Do you want to fail for a legitimate reason? Because it's possible. You can have a really good excuse and still fail. What's more important? That you had a good excuse or that you failed? Who wants that?
Man, that's good. You said your response is your responsibility. That's so good, because one of my quotes is, my life didn't change until I took responsibility for it. Like, you can spend your whole life blaming what somebody said, what somebody did, as the reason why you did what you did and why you responded the way you did. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, like, you're gonna have to answer to what you did, how you responded, how you forgave, how you loved. And you don't ever want to give somebody, an individual, a situation, that much power to rule your life. Because whether you know it or not, unforgiveness shows up in, the way you behave, the relationships, the new people that come around,
every way,
the new friends. It shows up in your body. It shows up as sickness, and so, at some point you have to want to forgive, not only to live free in the natural, but also on the spiritual side too. If God
most definitely
can be so gracious to forgive us, and it's easier said than done, I know, because me saying this right now, I'm thinking about
but it can still be done.
Amen. Even me saying this right now, I'm thinking about a situation, the person, that I need to forgive. But, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're not just saying these things. You want to make sure that, your life lines up with the words that are coming out of your mouth. And that's kind of where, it goes back to just being obedient to God and living in that, and just allowing his provision to take place in our life. Because I just feel like unforgiveness holds up a lot of things that we don't even see right now. God could probably want to open a door for you, but you haven't forgiven this person from 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 30 days ago. And so you never want to carry like people and problems and situations and, unforgiveness into new opportunities. I think the Bible says, so I don't think I know, the Bible says something about you can't pour new wine in old wine.
New wine into old wine skins.
And I just feel like I can literally see it happening. Like, people trying to take these old things into new opportunities and new seasons. And, I just think that forgiveness is important. Forgiveness is very important to our well-being. And so I wanted you guys to make sure that if you haven't forgiven someone, to go ahead and forgive. I don't know if you're able to have a conversation or, just internally, like your own personal forgiveness, do that, because you don't want to hold up what God has for you because of unforgiveness.
We keep saying it's easier said than done. And I keep saying, but it can be done. So I want to give at least one practical step on how to get started on that. Because, everybody's like, well, they keep saying forgive, but how am I supposed to do that? what worked for me, because as a believer, the whole concept of visualizing something so until it manifests is what worked for me. So I decided what I wanted to look like and what I wanted to feel like the next time I saw this person. And I wrote out a scenario like, okay, next time I see this person, I'm gonna I'm gonna feel like this. Or the next time somebody asks me about that person, forget to see that person, because I had to get to that point. But because in the book I was talking about a marriage that had gone south, everybody was asking me, because they knew I had just gotten married. Oh, how's married life? And my response would be like, I don't want to talk about it. Stop asking me about this dude. And, he's gone. And I wasn't pretty. So I decided that my response the next time was going to be something more cordial. Like, well, it's a lot harder than I thought, but, I'm working through it. And that was a baby step for me. And then I decided after I was okay saying that, and I didn't burst into tears every time I said that, then the next time I was going to say something more like, yeah, well, better like next time. I started figuring out how to joke about it because I wanted to see myself in a better place. So I asked myself, what does that look like? And I started making progress towards that vision of what I wanted to look and feel like the next time that question was posed, or the next time I happened to have to see him. And, go figure, I didn't end up seeing him until years later after we got divorced for the first time. It was, I don't even know how many years, maybe 5 or 6 years later. But I didn't even know how I was going to respond, because I was just like, ooh, this is it. This is the test. What's it going to feel like? And who knew? I was genuinely happy to see him. Didn't know. But that was what that work was like. That was what all those years of telling myself, I can do this. I can feel happy, because ultimately, even if the relationship was horrible quickly, the time that it was good, I felt great. So I chose to hold on to the happy part of it.
That's so good.
Be thankful for what it had done for me. Be thankful that I realized, oh, it is possible to feel love like this. Because I did. In the beginning, oh my gosh, that was the best relationship ever. And I didn't know I could feel like that in a relationship. So that was what I focused on more so than the ending. But again, it took a while to get there, but I had to bring my mind back to that space and be happy about the whole experience as it made me who I am.
That's so good.
If that makes sense.
That's a really good. Like I started to think about a relationship I had, and it was good until it wasn't. And so we so quick to dwell on like all the bad. What about the times I could listen to love songs and think about a person versus after the breakup, I'm finding all the toxic love songs I can listen to, bust your windows out your car type stuff, and I'm dwelling on the way it went left, when I could be dwelling on the things that did go right and the lessons that I learned and the things the things I know I'll never put myself in. And so I feel like a lot of times, certain things do happen so God can teach us and show us, what's possible, and then what we won't accept. Because now with that experience, I know for a fact I'm not going to accept this from a person. Or I'm not going to accept this from a person. Right. And it won't take years to figure out that you won't accept it. You'll know from then, hey, this is what I will not be doing. So I'm gonna chuck the deuces. Like, right, red flag. Right, that's so true. And so that was really good. So you did jump ahead of me, because I was gonna ask you, like, what's one thing that you would like tell, what's a practical thing that you would tell the listeners? But just like a mom would do, you went ahead of me. So again, thank you so very much for chatting it up with me today on the Courage Plug. Listen, so where could everybody follow you at? Where are you? Where you hang around on these social media streets?
On these social media streets, I am on Facebook. I'm Danita Lynne on Facebook. I am D Lynne Speaks on Instagram. And I believe if you type Danita Lynne in, you would still find it there. And if those people who are on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn too, Danita Lynne. I'm actually on Twitter, but I don't really do too much on there. My website is DanitaLynne.com, DanitaLynne.com. And you can go there and find all my social media handles, as well as order a copy of the book. You can download an excerpt for free, actually. And but if you order a copy of the book from me, I will autograph it, or you can, get it through Amazon. It doesn't matter. But like I said, I would love to personally write something to you, because I write something different in every book, and that I autograph. And I would love to have the chance to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I can't wait till we get off here so we can talk in real life. But thank you guys for joining me for another episode of The Courage Plug.